Blended Insight podcast. Hey, bright souls. This is Susan with Blended Insight, and thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. For those of you that don't know me, I am an intuitive, an energy healer, and an integrative/holistic wellness practitioner. And all any of that means is that I love to learn, grow, develop, and evolve, and then share everything that I've learned to help and inspire others to do the same. On today's podcast, I want to talk about navigating the medical system. Most people that would be drawn to this podcast are maybe a little interested or fully vested in alternative or Eastern medicine. But in our culture, Western medicine is the most prevalent. And if you're an energetically sensitive person, an empath, an intuitive like me, this can be a little bit tricky. So my goal for today's podcast is to help you stand in your power and to take your power back and to comfortably use whatever system you're drawn to. So I work for a military medical hospital, and I'm also an energy healer. Also, when I was doing my holistic wellness practitioner program, a big part of that whole certification process was holistic nutritionist. So I went through this whole holistic nutrition based program, learning all kinds of ins and outs about nutrition and eating and all those things. But I've been studying alternative medicine and using it for myself for 15 years. I've taken numerous courses. I've seen lots of herbalists and naturopaths, and I've been to integrative wellness practitioners, and I see energy healers, and I've been to acupuncture and all different types of nutritionists. I've just been on the scene a long time. And so I feel like I have a pretty solid leg in both worlds. In all things, I believe that spirituality must be carried out in practicality. So I want to be logical, and I also want to be connected. That is always my goal. I want to be balanced. Yes, we are spiritual beings. We're also living in a physical body, and we're in a very physical world. So I really believe in merging both sides to create balance and to live your very best existence while you're here. That is just my personal approach, and that's what works for me. So I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but maybe you have a physical ailment in your body and you go to standard medicine and they basically discount everything that you suggest alternative based wise, or they basically have something against alternative medicine in general, or they just kind of laugh it off. Whereas in alternative medicine, my experience has been most practitioners feel like the Western approach is too invasive and basically doesn't work with the natural rhythms of the body. My point is, everyone has an opinion about each side, and you probably have your own experience. I really got heavy into this because I have my own experience. Really, it could have been very detrimental to my health. Back in 2013, I started having these episodes where I would get tingling and numbness in my limbs and all over my face and my head. It was very concerning. And I had other issues before that. It was essentially just me opening myself up intuitively, and my vibrations were too much of a mismatch to other people. So it was making my body was really weak. It's like I ascended quicker than my body could catch up, which sounds fluky, I know, but it's a real thing. And so my body was trying to catch up to my vibration, and it was making me really weak and sick. But at the time I didn't know that. So I had been going to the doctor for that, and no one could figure it out. So I just gave it up. And then, I had started lifting weights, and I didn't connect the two. I told my doctors I was lifting weights, but they didn't put two and two together. And so I went to go be seen because it was really scary. My hands were like numb, like they were asleep all the time, and it was just shifting into different parts of the body. So my general practitioner that I was seeing at the time referred me to a neurologist. So I go to the neurologist, and she orders MRIs and all this other stuff, and they're basically trying to see if I have MS because they think I might have multiple sclerosis. So I go into my appointment with the neurologist, and she was very kind. She did all of her exam things with me where they, take a mallet and hit your knees and make you stand up and walk on one foot and all this other stuff. And she says, no, you're very, very healthy. You don't have any symptoms of MS, but let's look at your MRIs. So her staff assistant brings her in a folder, and she opens it up, and she goes, well, based on the MRI, you have MS. So I want to start you on medication immediately. What? I said, what? I mean, it was just a drastic shift. No sensitivity, no compassion, very matter of fact. You have MS. This is the medication you need to take. See my assistant on the way out and we'll get you set up. No. It just didn't resonate with me. And I said, something isn't right. So I'm going to request copies of the MRI, and I want you to send everything that you have over to my general practitioner so I can think about this. No, we really suggest you need to get started on these drugs right away. I'm like, no, I'm not taking the drugs. This is what I'm going to do. And so I was very firm about what I felt. And I went to the parking lot, and I actually called a friend of mine who did energy healing too, and she scanned me and said, I don't think you have MS. And I said, I don't think I have MS either, but the fact that someone is looking at scans and telling you have it, it doesn't feel good. It's a little scary. Even though I knew in myself it wasn't true, the experience of it was very unpleasant. The way I was treated, the lack of compassion, being a number in the system, because my general practitioner got her report back, and then her assistant called me and said, can you come in so we can talk about your MS? I'm like, well, actually, I don't have MS, but I appreciate the phone call. I was getting super annoyed and irritated. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and go back in and get my scan copies, and I'm going to get a second opinion. So they kind of backed off with that. They were a little aggressive with it, which is really inappropriate because at the end of the day, I am the CEO of my body. I'm the one that lives in here, and I know it better than anyone else. And if I choose to not take medication, that is my choice. This is my body, right? But in the medical system, they don't really see it that way, Western medicine. So I was working with an energy healer at the time. I had met her at a Doreen Virtue Tarot certification course in Austin. This is before Doreen Virtue went off the deep end. I don't know what happened to her, but it was many years ago. And she was doing little energy healings on me. I was just interested in her as a person, and I wanted to support her work. And she said, no, I don't think you have MS. But then she started sending me all these videos on people that had MS. And so I kind of knew right then we were not a vibrational match any longer, because even herself, her intuition said you don't have MS. But subconsciously, we tend to give our power to the medical system or supposed authorities with a title behind their name. And I don't care who it is. They don't live in your body. And that's part of the problem with our society. It was just, she was buying into it without even realizing it. So that was sort of the beginning of the end of me kind of working with her. I still love her. I'm friends with her, but it just didn't work out. So here's the main point of this story. So I picked up the scans, and the person that did the x-rays, they have a doctor that reviews them, and he said, your scans look great, you don't have MS. And I took it back to the doctor, the neurologist that said I had MS, and I showed the scans to the front desk assistant, and she was talking blah blah blah, and then they were like talking about themselves, and they look horrified. And then they admit to me that they had switched charts. They had given her the chart of another patient who had MS. I was not the one that had MS. And then they started scrambling and trying to make it seem like I still had the MS so that they didn't get sued, of course. Instead of owning it and apologizing and saying, I'm so sorry that we misdiagnosed you. Think if I hadn't have been so strong in my own conviction, my intuition. What if I had taken that medicine and started taking it and started basically treating myself for something that I didn't have? And then on the other hand, think of the actual patient that had the MS that was told that they didn't have MS, and now they have to get called back in and told them they had MS. It was a mess. And the sad part about it is that the neurologist tried to write a report and say, well, there was this one tiny thing in a scan that could lead to MS, and it just made no sense. So just so you know, I did go get a second, third, and fourth opinion, and all of the other opinions said there is no possible way you have MS. Your scans don't match it. But here I am. I still have the tingling stuff on and off. So I was so exhausted with it, I just let it go. And then fast forward 2016, I started having the symptoms again. And they basically sent me to another neurologist who said, we can do some nerve tests with you. We don't really know. You don't have MS, so we don't know. And that was just kind of it. That was at the end of their capability. Most Western medicine practitioners, they're very scientific, they're very logical, they look at their limited studies, and that's it. But because I'm so open and I was actively trying to heal myself and looking into all these nutritional approaches and asking to be shown and all the things that you do when you're just really proactive about your health, I stumbled upon a neuromuscular therapist who worked with muscles in the body. It's like a branch of massage therapy. She was referred to me by my hair designer. I went to her and she demonstrated to me that I had knots in my body from working out. My body does not like lifting heavy weights. And I didn't put two and two together, but each time I was lifting heavy weights for an extended amount of time, I got the symptoms. Well, what was happening is that my muscles were knotting up and it was cutting off the blood circulation. And so that's all it was. So she was able to push certain muscles and trigger my symptoms. I couldn't believe it. And she's like, yeah, we'll just work these out and you'll be fine. And she was right. She was able to work out the muscles, and I just learned that my body doesn't like lifting super heavy weights. I can't do that. It's just not healthy for me. So that was the whole thing. But my point is that if I had just listened to the standard medical doctor and followed through with her trying to cover her tracks and took medicine and all this stuff for something I didn't have, what a tragedy. What a waste of time, money, could have been damaging to my health. And at the end of the day, I attribute that experience just to me being grounded and listening to my own intuition over her. I don't feel like serious decisions like that should be made on the fly that way. The way that they handled me was really inappropriate. They didn't have compassion. They were just robots. They become very desensitized. I believe that nurses and doctors go into the profession because they genuinely want to help and they care about people. I really believe that. I think, unfortunately, with the nightmare of insurance and just seeing people that are grumpy all day, I think sometimes they get desensitized and they kind of lose track of why they're there or why they started. So, I just can't lift heavy weights. I don't have MS, and I knew that, and I was strong in myself. And the reason I share that story is because when you are facing medical issues, I feel it's extremely important to stay grounded, to look at the facts. Like, I got the scans. I wasn't in denial. This wasn't like an egotistical denial where I'm just neglecting my health. No, I'm very serious about my health. I will spend money on nutrition and I will spend money to go see alternative health practitioners. To me, my health is everything. This is the vessel that Spirit uses for me to speak to people, for me to do my work, for me to take care of my family. It's important to me. So that wasn't it. It was just that what was going on with me didn't have anything to do with what I was being told. And I knew it inside of myself, and I had the strength to listen to my intuition, even over other people that were in the same line of work or other person that was starting to cave to the authority of the Western medical system. So what I first want to say is, if you are on the healing path and you do Western medicine, a lot of times when something goes wrong in our body, we tend to blame ourselves. Because we'll get out Louise Hay's Heal Your Body book and go look at our ailment and look at the affirmation that goes along with it and look at the mind-body connection and say, oh, look what I've done to myself. I've done that. That's why I'm bringing this up. And you'll be super hard on yourself. That's not the way to use that book. The way that I use the Heal Your Body book is if something's wrong, I'm curious about it with myself or my clients. I just want to see if there's a connection, but I'm not sold to it. Maybe there's not a connection. Maybe it doesn't resonate. That's okay. But I try to take a very holistic approach to health in general. Let's look at the nutrition. Let's look at our repetitive thoughts. Let's look at your activity level. Let's look at your environmental factors, everything. I really believe it should be working with Western and Eastern medicine to merge together to create a unique plan for you, because we're not all alike. Everyone's unique. There is no one size fits all to health, nutrition, none of it. So here's what you can do when you are navigating the standard Western medical system and Eastern medicine. At the end of the day, your opinion is really the only thing that matters. You live in your body. You are the CEO of your health. You are the CEO of your body. You have to always remain firm and be your own best advocate about what you feel is right for you. That in itself will take you a very long way. I know sometimes it's hard when you have the opinions of others, and that's why it's so important when you're facing a medical crisis to deepen your spiritual practice, meditate more, listen to yourself, take super good care of yourself, love yourself, do your own research, get your own test results, you have to figure out, I know it's exhausting. I mean, even when I was having some supposed thyroid markers going on, which I don't, my thyroid markers were okay, but I was having some supposed thyroid symptoms. It was just spiritually, I needed to shield myself. As soon as I started doing that, the symptoms went away. But they were trying to figure all of that out. I had to I went to Dr. Mark Hyman's website and I ordered some of his ebooks to figure out blood test results so that I could look at it for myself and become educated. There's certain areas that you have to educate yourself in, and so that you can speak confidently about it, number one. Number two, so that you can make the best decision for yourself. It's okay for you to do that. The other thing is, when you're dealing with medical practitioners that are just robots and they're numbed over and they discredit everything that you're doing for yourself outside of their limited purview, just send them love. They're really just functioning in their very limited capacity. I don't think it's from an ill nature. It's just they've seen lots of patients. They're very sold to whatever it is that they're practicing. They're not very open-minded often, and sometimes they're callous and mean, and I know that's upsetting. It upsets me too, and I get activated, but it's just sort of like, you know what? They're trying to do a good thing. They're just going about it the wrong way. So try not to get so hung up on it, because it can really get you going, and I know from personal experience. So really, that's all I wanted to share. I just wanted you to take your power back. You are the CEO of your own body and your own health. It is perfectly okay to use both Western and Eastern medicine. Trust yourself of what you're drawn. Sometimes a Western medicine procedure may be more effective for you than an Eastern medicine. And as long as you're putting the proper attachment to it, creating the meaning to it that is beneficial for you. You know, because sometimes in the spiritual movement, people get really defeated if they have to get a medical surgery or something like that. There's no reason to do that. You can assign really positive meanings to each surgery. I remember listening to Louise Hay talk about how, actually it wasn't Louise Hay, it was Dr. Northrup talk about how anytime someone has a surgery, she tells them to assign basically like a mantra to it, like every time this or whatever part's being removed from my body is taking this certain emotion with it. So as they remove this out of my body, all the anger and regret is going with it. And basically like making a ritual out of it so that it serves you. So there are ways to go about it so that you stay sane, you stay grounded, and you don't feel like you're just going to lose it, because it can get that way. It really can. And so with that, let's do a little energy healing to sweep us of any fear, negativity, and really frustration that we've had as we try to take the very best care of our bodies and heal ourselves. You know your body better than anyone else. You have access to all the strength and the power and the inner fortitude that you need. You are loved unconditionally. And give yourself a break. Congratulate yourself for trying to be the very best version of yourself that you can be. Answers will come to you. Just be open, be receptive. Grounding you deep into the earth. And you can handle it. You are capable. And so it is. Okay. Gosh, I love doing those healings at the end. I just feel like it seals everything in and it just closes up all of the information and it just ends with a nice little energy healing. Thank you so much for listening to this and connecting with me. Look, I'm just a regular person and I appreciate you taking the time to connect with me and to just listen to what I have to say. I don't take it for granted. I don't take it lightly. I respect your time. I respect who you are, and I'm just grateful. So I just want you to know that I'm sending you lots of love, positive, and healing energy. I really hope that this helped you in some way. We're all in this together. You know, we connect because we have similar experiences and we can help each other. So again, sending all my love. And if you have podcast suggestions, you can email me at susan@blendedinsight.com. And you can visit me at Blended Insight or YouTube or Facebook. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.